isn't entirely centered. What can you do? Hi folks. I'm Prism Cat, also known as Steph. I'm a crazy fantasy writer who decided to read one of my books out loud on Twitch. That would be my fantasy novel Black Wolf, which you can find by going to prismcat.com/blackwolf, all one word. The Wattpad version is the most up to date at the moment. I will work on the others, I promise, but as of recording this on the 31st of March, the Wattpad version is the most up to date. Also the easiest way to leave me comments, and I love comments. I love knowing people are actually reading it and getting into it. Everything is absolutely free. I don't charge for the stuff that I write. But if you enjoy it and you have a couple extra bucks that you want to donate to the local pet food bank or shelter or something, I imagine they would be very grateful right now. When people start getting short on cash, it's hard to buy pet food, and they gotta eat too. So, we are almost through the whole thing at this point. All we've got left is the big final battle. We've got elven mages and a Morenni mage and a couple of demon wolves and some demons, and it's just going to be a free-for-all. And that'll be it. After that, I'm going to take a break at least for a few days. I'm not used to this whole Twitch streaming thing, and I'm finding it a little bit tiring and a bit disruptive in the middle of my day. I can't really do it first thing in the morning because my roommate and best friend is a gamer who also streams on Twitch, Indie Diva. I'm going to nudge her to drop a link to her own Twitch stream in the comments. She's been wonderful about being a mod for me and protecting me from trolls and stuff. Sadly, there are trolls around. I might actually be streaming with her tomorrow morning, doing 2 Point Hospital, checking out the new DLC, which is about all kinds of awesome green stuff. So I'm really looking forward to playing that. I've been delaying because life has been happening despite social isolation or social distancing and self-isolation and stuff. So we might actually try that on her stream tomorrow, which would make it a good reason for her, very good reason for her to drop her stream link in the chat room. I'll be taking a few days off. I might come back and try to read something else that I've written. Lord knows I have enough stuff that I have written. Several other actual novels and a serial and a playground world that just goes on forever, with some neat world building, I think, and a lot of rather interesting characters. I haven't decided yet. We'll see. You could actually follow me on Twitter. I'm not on there very much, and I'll probably not be on much the next few days. But Prism Cat Books on Twitter. There should be a link down below. And I will announce it when I decide what I'm going to do. I think that's about all the babbling I can do for the moment. And yeah. Why on earth is Twitch not giving me a countdown on how long my session's been lasting? Okay, well, looks like it's actually live and I'm not just talking to myself. It just isn't counting for some reason. Beats me. I'll just have to try to keep track of what time I started. Actually, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to read to the end of the novel and then call it a day. Alright, so, Indie Diva, if you are listening, you should be listening, drop the link to your own Twitch stream in the chat room or somewhere, please, so that people will be able to know where to look tomorrow morning to see if maybe we're going to stream 2 Point Hospital. Alright, that's coming up on like 6 minutes of generalized babbling and stuff, and that's not what you guys are here for, if you're here at all. I assume you're actually here for me to read a story. So, let's read a story. Chapter 61. If I get wired any more tightly, I'm going to start howling. Please let something happen soon. Jess fidgeted restlessly, his silver name dagger cool in his hands. He could imagine it begging for demon blood, just like the sunset over the lake had turned the water to blood. My imagination is in overdrive. I swear, though, we'll wash the blood away. By sunrise, the water will be clean, and everyone can rest peacefully. Us included. I just hope it's in this world. Sitting with him, close to the wall, Jason and Andrea were just as anxious. He was sure they must look more than a bit fey, a dark trio in mage silks, black and silver, and each their own proper color. His rich purple, Jason's vivid blue, Andrea's deep red. Kevin had grumbled, while making silks for Jason and Andrea, that at least they were willing to wear more color than Jess was, otherwise they'd look like they stepped out of a bad ninja movie. In sharp contrast, Kevin and Laurie looked about as unmagical as possible. The former was leaning calmly against one of a stand of birches with his arms crossed. Who ever imagined a mage in jeans and a ragged X-red t-shirt? Laurie in equally prosaic green cargo pants and a creamy-colored tank top. A strand of quartz beads in countless shades circling her throat, had seated herself with her back against the same tree, arms draped casually across her raised knees. They certainly didn't look like they had just, in some inexplicable magical way, called challenge on an opponent they could lose against, despite all precautions. Inside the walls, where he wouldn't be sensed or seen, Shane waited, ready to step in as soon as he was needed. Which would, if things went as planned, be immediately after the Cora Tremaines kicked 3 demons' tails up into their throats. We should never have asked them to do this. Kev and Laurie and Shane are going to get killed over us. Enough people have died over the demon wolf line, haven't they? We should have run away, Jason and Andrea and I, and at least then it would be only us dying. Shut up, Jess, you aren't helping. And running away is hardly any more intelligent. Haven't you learned that by now? Heads up, Kevin murmured. Someone just swept the area to see who's here. I didn't get a clear look, but who else could it be? A long pause. Then Laurie said, There he is. Watch your eyes. This wasn't a gate like Kevin and Laurie made them, shaping them quietly, out of the available light on each side. This gate exploded violently into existence, the glare from the noon-white light throwing shapes into sharp relief. Jess shielded his eyes with his arm, waited for it to fade back to comfortable darkness. Even then, sunspots danced in front of him. Sure, blind us and hope it helps. He could smell the demon mage and see him vaguely while his eyes struggled to clear themselves. Afraid to challenge me alone? The demon mage asked Kevin mockingly. Kevin shrugged. Against you alone? No problem. But you never face anyone alone, do you? Laurie stood up, brushed grass off her pants, and gave the demon mage a disdainful half-bow. Laurie Aurelian. The demon mage frowned. Confused, Jess thought, because as he understood it, the Aurelian bloodline rarely turned up mages, more often pure telepaths or telekinetics. I have no argument with any Aurelian, He must not have looked close enough to see how strong Lori is, and she's too smart to waste power or give away unnecessary info by doing a proper signature thing. This Aurelian has a serious problem with you, for a long list of reasons, beginning with the fact that my father is a Leoran, Kevin is my favorite cousin, and I'm getting a tad sick of you threatening him and our friends. As soon as she said Leoran, the demon mage's expression turned to anger. Another fucking Leoran, he spat. Fine, and you two have the nerve to formally challenge me. A very particular kind of challenge, Kevin said. We have 3 wolves. You call 3 demons, and we can see which of them is still standing at the end. That could be amusing, but it won't help. I let you off before, Leoran. I won't this time, you or your cousin. Let him off? He and Shane kicked your ass last time. Look which side ran away. Kevin shrugged. That's fine, because I'm getting extremely tired of you messing with my friends. Why don't we take care of that afterwards? I'm sure among your demon, allies, there must be 3 who would like fresh wolf blood. Dinner for 3. Come and get it. The demon mage looked at Kevin thoughtfully, mood changing again. You think a lot like I do. You know what you want, and you do what you have to in order to get it. I am nothing like you, Kevin said, his voice so level, Jess thought he was trying to control his temper. I fight to protect the people who matter to me. You fight because you're too insecure not to keep trying to prove how strong you are. The other mage spat a curse. You know nothing about me. You're just like the rest, so sure you're above everyone else and can do whatever you want. Arrogant, self-centered, uppity damn mages. Arrogant I've been called before, but the rest is new. You can't even be bothered to take this seriously. That's downright insulting. Really? Awesome. I was afraid I was out of practice. It's been a while. Are you waiting for something in particular? Summer solstice, total lunar eclipse, the magnetic poles to shift. If you're in such a hurry to watch your pet wolves die. The demon mage backed away a few steps, held out both hands in front of him, palm up and slightly cupped. The moon was just rising over the house, spilling silver light over them. Hunt by silver light, born and die to fight. If you want any of this wolf's wild blood, you can damn well try and take it. The demon mage began to speak, unfamiliar words that seemed to be mostly consonants, and the moonlight pooled in his hands, coalescing into a ball that grew steadily brighter, until Jess had to look away. Kevin and Laurie didn't, but then, to them, it was probably preferable to semi-blindness with only the moonlight. The demon mage clapped his hands together sharply, and the light vanished, replaced by a trio of shadows, too dark for the clean moonlight to disperse. Aindri rose smoothly, drew her now shining dagger, and left the sheath there. The twins echoed it, and all 3 paced out to face the demons that had killed Unity. Well, okay, so the Maronai were a rather large part of it. But who cares? The Maronai haven't hunted us all this time either. The demon mage gestured towards the Korith remains. Those 3. Kill them. They shaped themselves from utter blackness into vaguely dragonish things, all huge bat wings and 3 long scaly necks and too many dagger-like claws, the color of all the filth that Jessie had ever seen. And big. Their shoulders were easily above Jessie's head. How the fuck do we fight those? He thought numbly. Then, the way we were taught. Go for the central nervous system or the heart, keep moving and don't let it hit you, and pray to Cassandra. The scent of the demons stirred something that lay somewhere deep within, waking a cold rage. And something more. A peculiar doubled awareness of himself and of Jason at the same time. Even as he circled left, he was conscious of Jason circling to the right, an echo within his own body of the sensations his twin experienced. He had to look sideways to know that Andry was still between them, gaze locked on the center demon. Funny, I don't remember anything like this from lessons. I wonder if Jace gets it too. The nearest demon struck at him with all three heads. He evaded them with little room to spare, and lunged at it. The razor-sharp knife left a long, bloody stripe down one side of its chest. Unfortunately, only shallow. Enough to sting. He dodged a swipe from a massive paw, wincing at the thought of what those claws could do to his body. He felt the shock as Jason drove his dagger home, felt it hit bone and glance off. That demon shrieked, and the ground quivered. Anyone in Haven still asleep isn't now. Bet that made the house shake. Jesse took advantage of the distraction, plunged his own hilt deep into the left side neck, and twisted it, wishing the demon would stop screaming like that right in his ear. The dagger touched bone, and he thrust it in that direction, sidestepping so the teeth of another head missed him. Between two of the vertebrae, demons had to follow some rules of biology, and he twisted again, forcing them apart. That head effectively died, limp and useless anyway, and better yet, it interfered with attacks from the foreclaws on that side. One flailing wing caught him squarely, flung him a dozen feet away. He scrambled to his feet, struggling for breath, lack of oxygen, and the adrenaline, and that god-awful screaming, combined, were making the world spin alarmingly. Through moonlight-colored fog, he saw the demon coming at him, hissing in rage, saw the two heads dipping towards him. Frantically, he twisted away, and willed himself wolf. It didn't take the few seconds it normally did. A detached part of his mind took note of that, as another adaptation to fighting demons. He scrambled to his feet, less his dagger now, but at least the doubled strike missed him. He slashed savagely at a wing, shredded part of the membrane, restraining an urge to vomit from the taste. It shrieked, and its voice joined in with another. It must be Andry's target. He hadn't felt anything from that strange echo effect. Warily, Jesse circled, feinted in, retreated before the teeth, ducked to the right and came back to the left, and dug his own teeth into the underside of the center throat. Still shrieking, it flung its head up, leaving behind a mouthful of flesh in the process. Jesse spat it out in revulsion. Ha! Take that, beast. Bet that hurts a bit. He felt a flash of pain from Jason, felt his brother's dagger fall, and the instant response of shifting to wolf, and hoped he wasn't hurt too badly. He seized the center throat again, this time got a better grip, and held on for all he was worth. The teeth of the right head scored down the length of his side. He whined in pain, but dug all 4 feet into the ground to anchor, and tightened his grasp grimly. The center head fought to throw him off. The right head and right claws struck repeatedly at him, but he could evade the claws. The center head went limp, everything inside crushed. 2 down, 1 to go. The demon's form melted into darkness again and reshaped itself. This form wasn't physically impressive. In fact, it was simply a human man in his mid-40s, haircut short and neat, dressed for the office, though the dark gray jacket had been shed. White sleeves rolled up to forearms. From one hand swung a doubled length of computer network cable, the outer sheath partly stripped to expose the 8 wires within. Jess whined again, flattened himself on his stomach, wriggling backwards away from him, tail tucked between his legs. Don't hit me, oh God, please, don't whip me with the cable again. I didn't tell... Oh God, yes I did, I told Kev. He said never to tell anybody ever, or he'd... Jesse, the man-demon said reprovingly, where have you been? Your mother and I have been worried sick about you. You've been misbehaving, which means you have to be punished, you know that, and yet you keep right on doing things you know you aren't supposed to do. Come here right now, and we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll go home and find you a better counselor this time. No, no more punishments, no more counselors, please no. He hit something, couldn't retreat any farther. He cowered as the man approached him, smiling tolerantly, the cable swinging in his hand. Jess! Jason screamed at him. Kill it! Before it can kill you! Now! Wasn't Jace fur form? Kill before it killed him. He'll kill me if he catches me. Killed everyone. Killed Mom. Will kill Jason, Andry, and the mages and everyone waiting in the house. All the different threads of terror blurred together, melted back into rage. You fucked up my life and you never paid for it. I'm the one who's gone through hell and you stayed nice and cozy in your fancy house, on the demon plane, in the lake. He gathered himself, launched himself directly at the demon in human form. The demon, anticipating victory, was caught completely off guard as 140 pounds of black wolf collided with its chest. The cable flicked across his back, once, twice, but his fur muffled the stinging, and he had the demon down, could claw at its chest until he reached the ribs, crunch a couple of ribs out of the way, and dig deep for the heart. His teeth closed on it, and he tossed his head sideways, ripping it out. With a last ear-tormenting shriek, the demon disappeared, leaving only a bloody stain on the grass. Panting, Jess shifted back to human and found his dagger, a bright gleam against dark grass, then turned to see which of his siblings needed him more. Easy choice. Both were working on the same demon, so one or the other must have been a little faster than him. He ran over to join them. The demon seemed uncertain, alone against all three of them, its compatriots dead. Jason Furform and Andry with her dagger had already wounded it badly, though 2 heads remained active. Jess's dagger sliced along the side of one neck, and in the instant after, Jason grabbed that throat, holding on relentlessly, though it shook him entirely off his feet, briefly right off the ground. The other head snaked towards him, but Andry slashed at it and kept its attention on her, while Jesse thrust his dagger deep into its chest, stopping only when hilt met hide, and then twisting. Both heads shrieked, attempted to twine back towards him, but couldn't. Jesse's dagger was torn out of his hand, though, before he could free it. He saw silver shining faintly nearby. Jason's dagger. Was the twin bond strong enough to make it more than mere metal in his hand, though it wasn't his own name? Worth a try. He darted back, circled around to get it, then watched for a chance. The dragon demon clawed vainly at its tormentors, and Jess felt Jason's pain again, shallowly down his stomach. It left an opening, though, and he bolted in, praying devoutly to whatever had kept him alive this long. His own dagger he used as a step, and vaulted himself up onto the dragon's back. With Jason's dagger, he dug into its backbone, prying vertebrae apart. They separated, and the body collapsed. Jess jumped clear, landed the wrong way, and stumbled to his feet, unsure how long his right leg would bear his weight. Jason let go of a limp head, backed off a step, gulping air heavily. Andry retreated a few feet as well, just out of the reach of the last head, watching it intently. Abruptly, she moved forward and straddled the neck from behind, seized the head in both hands, and put her full weight behind twisting it sharply sideways. Bone crunched, the demon screamed, and its body melted away. We did it! We killed all 3, and we're still alive, all of us! Jason raised his head, let out a howl of pure triumph. Andry and Jess both shifted to wolf, added their voices to his, and they sang the victory to the silver moon above. The demon rage began to fade, taking with it that strange echo of Jason, and the adrenaline keeping them on their feet. One at a time, they staggered and collapsed. Impressive, someone said from not too far away. I wasn't sure how much I believed them about the danger. It would seem they had a reason to fear after all. Never doubted it. That was Kevin. Now, you were saying something about not letting me off this time. Please be careful, guys. Don't make me have to cry for you, when everything should be wonderful now. Bone-deep exhaustion made it hard just to stay awake, but he was going to watch. He had to watch. 62. Kevin forced worry for the wolves and fear for himself and Laurie and Shane into the back of his mind, and activated his shields, gold and white and sunset red. The world had narrowed considerably as the sun vanished and the sky darkened. He had the solid presence of the shields in the walls to orient himself against, but otherwise everything was a grey and black blur, except the 3 exhausted demon wolves, Moonsilver and Shadow, with hints of amethyst or sapphire or garnet, or slightly too cool heat images, depending on which site he used. And Laurie, who was just raising her familiar summer green and tawny gold shields, clearly visible in their light. And the Lucian mage, who at some point had raised his own, crimson and saffron, and demon-colored. At least he'd be able to see anything created by elven magic when it came, and it helped to know that the Lucian mage, what was his name again? Patrick? Was probably no better able to see than he and Laurie were. Will you die happy, knowing that your pet wolves are safe? Kevin shrugged. If I have to die, and may as well be for a good cause. They aren't, however, safe from you yet. Laurie moved closer to him, slid her hand into his, warm and steady. Shields shivered where they touched, then melded together into a single whole, without difficulty. You're smarter than you look. Not that it will help you. Kevin smiled. We'll do our best to make it interesting for you. May your life be interesting, and it will be, if you only knew what's waiting just inside the walls. Bridget, lady, be with us. By Bridget and Lou, by the Moonwolf and the Horned God, by... oh, Tiamat and Poseidon, maybe? Let us get through this. Count on it, Laurie muttered. So, since we challenged you, that would give you the right to begin. The demon mage gestured, and the stars fell. It felt like it anyway. Countless tiny silvery lights rained down over them. They slid off the shields, but each left a dark streak in the shimmer, eating at it. One got through, began to burrow into his arm like a live thing. Kevin gritted his teeth and held very still, trying to ignore the increasing pain. It had to be an illusion. His shields would have put up more of a fight against anything directly dangerous. All he had to do was disbelieve it. Another made it through, hit his shoulder, and burrowed in as well, and he heard Laurie's breath hiss between her teeth. Illusion, she said silently. I think so. I know so. Her tone left no room at all for doubt. This isn't real. It's only illusion. Don't believe it, and it'll end, and you can get on to the next round. A sensation that made his stomach twist, of something inside his arm and crawling along the bone, both of them working their way towards his pounding heart. Please, Bridget, let them be illusion. Agony shuddered along every nerve, and the pain stopped, the crawling sensations fading away. Patrick's eyebrows rose. I was right. You do have an incredible amount of nerve. I've heard that one before. He had a brief exchange with Laurie, too fast for either to bother formulating thoughts into words, and together they wove will and moonlight into a winged serpent of green and gold and white, and sent it at Patrick. It coiled around the other's shields, but could go no further. Patrick gestured scornfully at it, plainly expecting it to dissipate. It didn't. It grew. Patrick paused, reevaluating, and threw another attack at it. Again, the serpent absorbed it. A pretty trick, he commented. He cast something different. Kevin thought it was actually negative energy, probably drawn from his demons, and the winged serpent cancelled out. Too bad. He was rather pleased with that particular invention, adapted from something Shane had shown them. Mage fights are so civilized, not like wolf fights. You take turns, you can even chat in the middle. I'd give a lot for something as straightforward as a wolf fight right now. Moonlight gathered, shaped itself into a massive saffron and crimson dragon, all horns and spikes. The whipped-in tail lashed towards them, slid off their shields, but left a darker streak where it had gouged them. Laurie poured energy into fixing it, while Kevin created his phoenix, hovering in the air above him, all the colors of the sun at dawn and noon and dusk. He sent it spiraling higher, had it stoop towards the dragon's eyes, diamond talons extended. Sensory input doubled. He closed his eyes, concentrating purely on what the phoenix could see, rather than trying to analyze two different images. The dragon turned its head upwards, orienting on the phoenix, and launched itself heavily into the air. The phoenix was less than half its size, but intensely brighter, dancing fast and agile around the dragon. Laurie's green-eyed tawny lioness launched upwards at the dragon from beneath, claws and fangs of emerald, tearing gaping wounds in the dragon's belly, wounds that bled moonlight. Patrick snarled something Kevin couldn't make out, and the dragon folded its wings. The lioness barely got out from under it before it landed. The ruby talons of the rear feet dug themselves deep into the ground, and the tail slashed at the lioness, even as the gaping jaws snapped at the phoenix. Kevin pulled it back out of reach, losing only a few fiery feathers in the process. The lioness crouched, and leapt over the tail just before it reached her, going straight for the dragon's throat. Through Phoenix's eyes, he caught a glimpse of himself and Laurie, hands still linked, his own eyes closed. But Laurie's green eyes were open, watching both ways at once, her expression alert and fiercely focused. Maybe we should have warned him that Laurie's beaten almost every mage in Haven and some from elsewhere at this game. Me included. And we've won as partners before. Usually, though, it was only a game, a way of refining one's skills and using one's wits and imagination. The lioness's emerald fangs tore a long gash down the dragon's throat, though she failed to get a grip on it. More moonlight bled away, the dragon's colors beginning to dim. Kevin sent the phoenix down again, into a dive directly at the dragon's eyes, while it was clawing and lashing and snapping at the lioness. Diamond talons struck, raked across one eye, and it looped up and over the dragon's wide forehead and spiky crest to drive its talons deep into the other eye. Patrick let out a cry of rage. Kevin wondered briefly who Irina was, and why Patrick was cursing her. But getting distracted would be bad. For example, Patrick had just gotten distracted, and the lioness had caught the tail whip between her teeth in her teeth and chewed it off. Phoenix and lioness tore ruthlessly into the dragon, making more and more wounds to bleed light away. But Patrick dissolved it back into nothing. Lioness and phoenix melted away as well. Section break. Hidden by the shadows, Shane ghosted out the gate, intent on the mage battle in front of him. Kevin and Laurie appeared to be doing well, but that would only last for so long. The thought flitted through his mind that he could stand back and wait, let the demon mage exhaust himself on the two elven mages. Then Shane could step in. He banished that idea. In the last few days, despite his best efforts, he had learned far too much respect for the pair, and not solely in magic. He couldn't do that. Besides, Jess would never forgive him. Now would be a good time, he decided, and threw darkness over the entire area, singing as softly as he could. He was unhindered, used to the perpetual night at the bottom of the lake. He used other senses to make his way to the cousins and slip himself between them, holding one hand of each. they'd be better able to protect him from the fire-based attacks to which he had little resistance. Kevin's hand tightened, told him gratitude more clearly than words. Laurie, always the calmer of the two, was shaking just a little, and gripped his hand with enough force for discomfort. The demon mage was drawing power from elsewhere, calling light, cancelled by the darkness. Elves being what they were, Kevin had told him wryly, little except extreme cold was more uncomfortable than the absence of light. And not even a demon mage was going to be able to ignore that. The other mage's light began to brighten the blackness towards grey. Kevin's power surged, and Laurie's right behind it, backing Shane's, and the darkness steadied again. Slowly, the demon mage won, even against all three of them, and the blackness dissolved. Shane let go of the song, not wasting effort on it any further. The mage did not look impressed. He glared at them, then took a closer look at Shane, and the frown deepened. "You again!" Shane gave him a charming smile. "Me again! Just thought maybe I could even up the odds a little." "Just as well. You're as much of an annoyance as this other whelp." "Oh, come on now. I'm much more annoying than Kevin." The mage flung pure fire at them, and it wrapped itself in a spiral around them, drawing ever tighter. He could feel the scorching heat, and cringed inwardly. The fire reached the boundaries of the glowing shields, and could go no farther. He gathered himself to throw the cold of the depths of the lake at it. "It's illusion," Kevin murmured. "Don't counter it. Ignore it." "Like you can ignore total darkness," Shane retorted, but he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. All he could do was believe Kevin, that the heat couldn't really hurt him, that the grass around them wasn't burning. "Try," Laurie said softly. "We wouldn't let it touch you even if it were real, I promise." Section break. This illusion had to be meant to frighten Shane. Simple fire, even mage fire, couldn't frighten another elven mage. At least Shane trusted them enough to not waste power on it, but the Marin's hand was clenched hard around his. It was successfully scaring him anyway. The illusion fire melted away, and Shane relaxed. "Do your stuff," Laurie said quietly. Kevin felt Shane reach for power, gave it readily, felt the intense concentration as the Marin shaped it, and began to sing. The same channel that allowed them to share power gave him and Laurie access to other things, and to this Shane had already consented while they were planning. Mareni senses being infinitely better suited to a night battle than Elven, he borrowed Shane's, careful not to touch anything else, though he was aware of Laurie doing the same. "Mareni certainly have some odd senses. I'm gonna have to ask about some of this stuff later. No wonder darkness doesn't bother him, though." The lake's surface shuddered, and drew itself together into a formless mass, defying natural laws entirely. Shane asked more strength, and the water construct's outline flowed and blurred, became 4-footed, 2 reflected stars settling themselves as eyes, moonlight sparkling through it in odd ways as the internal currents shifted so it seemed to glow from within. A large wolf, the size of Bane, leapt lightly off the lake onto the shore, yawned to bare teeth of sharp shell, and stalked towards Patrick. "This is a half-trained Mareni mage? Wow! Figure out how to deal with that." A barrier of raw fire didn't stop the water wolf. It bounded over it, landed on the far side a trifle smaller. A handful of fire flung at it, it simply danced sideways to avoid, and closed in on Patrick again. Kevin glanced sideways at Shane, found him gazing fixedly at the water wolf, every muscle visibly taut, the song never faltering. Concentration held the wolf together then. Still impressive. He fed him more power, careful not to disturb him. Patrick wove a ring of fire around the water wolf, made it too high for the wolf to jump, and constricted it. Shane swore softly, and the wolf's form collapsed in on itself, leaving only water seeping into the ground in the center of the ring. That took a lot of energy, Kevin told him quietly. Not just for him. What? Patrick said tightly. Are you? Shane laughed mockingly. You figure it out. The children of water and wind are myths. So are wolves that can kill demons. Patrick frowned thoughtfully. There is that. He shrugged. Doesn't matter. Moonlight warped itself inside out and into a gate. 2 people stepped through, and it closed. Hold it, Moira said frostily. Kevin's blood is ours. Carl bared his teeth in a lupine snarl, a distinctly eerie effect in the light of mage shields and moonlight. And damn good it's going to taste. Who the hell is that? Shane hissed. It's kind of a long story, Kevin said. This doesn't make any sense. Why would Carl and Moira suddenly be out for my hide? I could see maybe Jess's since he beat Rebecca. I don't get it. But we're in deep shit. That about covers it, Laurie agreed. What is she thinking? She might miss Shane, but she has to have known I'm right here, and so is he. That assumes Moira thinks, Kevin muttered. Okay, any 2 sides could potentially gang up on the third here and afterwards fight it out between themselves. I don't like this. Patrick surveyed the situation calmly. You have a claim on him so strong, you're willing to interrupt a duel. We have 1 coven mate dead and 1 badly injured, and it's Kevin's fault. It's what? Kevin heard his own voice hit a high note in sheer astonishment. Who's dead and how am I involved? Oh gods, please don't be dead, Becky, please. All right, Patrick said. For something so heinous, I'm willing to concede. Make your attempt. I'll take whatever's left of him. Don't expect there to be much, Moira said. Laurie, you can leave if you want. And the other one. It's only Kevin we owe. If I believed you wanted to challenge Kevin one-on-one, Laurie said, that would be one thing. But I know what you've been doing, and that it isn't one-on-one, so not a chance. If you get to have help, so does Kev. I don't suppose we can talk about this? Who's dead? How? And why are you blaming Kevin? Kevin made use of the probably very brief opportunity offered, and took a closer look at the pair with mage sight. What should have been a smooth interlacing of sparkling thin threads binding each member of Whitethorn to each of the others was a chaotic tangle of frayed and weakened strands, and several ragged ends whipping around like agitated living things in their own right, bleeding bright drops of energy. He hadn't even known that was possible. What could have severed them like that? Sharing power, especially deliberately and repeatedly, created a bond that could never entirely break. Kevin's with Carl remained, and he used that, and their mutual one to Rebecca, to triangulate on the Red Wolf bitch. The threads linking her to Whitethorn showed no signs of violence, but they were fading. Either that was a failure to renew it for an extended period, several weeks at least, or there was deliberate will involved, dissociating herself from them. Or both. That was actually more of a relief than it should have been, although it opened up a series of new, if less urgent, questions. The rest of Whitethorn, however, the strand between Carl and Moira remained strong. The threads to one of the other points in the circle were tattered and badly damaged, oozing small amounts of energy, and the threads connecting the last to them and to Rebecca were the ones that had been torn apart and were leaking noticeably. I couldn't even imagine how much that had to hurt, to say nothing of the emotional level and whatever trauma had caused it. Wordlessly, he shared that with Laurie, who had a less ready avenue to track the connections, and Shane, who knew very little about coven bonds and hadn't entirely worked out the sonic equivalent of seeing them. "Oh gods," Laurie whispered silently. "I've never even heard of anything like that. That's not just someone dying." "If they're the ones playing with demons," Shane said, "then you have an answer already." "Avril!" Moira's voice broke in a sob, then spiraled back into rage. "The demon that killed her explained it all, and it was right. All Avril wanted was more books. Rebecca leaving us, and Avril dying, and Dwayne maybe dying, all of it. It's all Kevin's fault, and all that damn black wolf of his." "Okay, grief, trauma, already unstable," Kevin said privately. "Demon gives her away to see Whitethorn as innocent victims instead of responsible for their own situation. Anyone think it's even worth wondering what kind of logic is behind this? Or that it's worth trying to argue it rationally?" "No, and no," Laurie said sadly. "But I have to try once more anyway." "Moira," she said gently, "you're hurting on a lot of levels. Fighting isn't going to accomplish anything at all, except probably more pain. Please, can we—" "Shut up," Carl growled. "Enough talking. Too much talking. This ends. Kevin pays. No more messing with us, ever." Moira began to chant, and Kevin cringed. He had heard those words, or similar, all consonants earlier. They couldn't fight a demon, taking on the form of an ethereally lovely humanoid, slender and silvery shining and feathery winged, fairly tall and clad in more feathers. Shane jumped and cursed as something small darted around their feet and paused between them. Kevin looked down, saw the white tip of a tail, all but luminescent in the shadows, green eyes reflecting the light of his shields back at him. He bit it off. No point giving her name to the demon. "Get back to Sam! This is no place for a cat!" Alfari gave him a haughty glance, then padded sedately forward to face the demon. "Wait," Laurie murmured. The beautiful thing whimpered and shrank back away from Alfari. "Kill him!" Moira commanded, pointing directly at Kevin. Unwillingly, the demon started to edge around Alfari. One of the demon wolves rumbled a warning, shifting position to track it. The demon shifted nervously from one foot to the other. "Please, mistress, some other command?" "Kill them!" Moira repeated. Sam had insisted that demons were as variable in temperament and values as the residents of this plane, though bound by conditions that allowed them or forced them to act here. This demon, aside from being undoubtedly lesser, felt very different from the other three earlier. Maybe it was just an innocent bystander hauled into this? Foolish as he might be, he hoped it wouldn't die here like this. That it wouldn't? It had just been told to kill him. Its innocence was about to become irrelevant. "Kill him!" Moira insisted, when the demon still hesitated. Miserably, it came forward, trying to watch Alfari and the demon wolves all at once. Alfari simply looked at it and advanced towards it. The demon retreated in front of her, and she backed it up against the warded wall. There she sat down, the very picture of composure, her tail curled neatly around her feet, staring at the unfortunate demon. The demon pressed against the wall and stayed quite still. "Way to go, Alfari!" Moira spat a curse. It's just a cat. Kill it and get on with it. Can't, mistress. Must really have a word with Sam about these special familiars of hers, just as soon as I live through this. Laurie chuckled. He picked up no surprise at all from her. Just a cat, huh? Maybe my coven ignored me? Now would be a good time for them to have. He reached for the bond with them, was answered by Sonia, the one telepath in the group other than him and Laurie. Are you done with the macho hero junk now? She asked. Yes, I'll apologize for stupidity later. Right now I need lots of power before Moira and Carl turn us into spaghetti. Nice going. Get Whitethorn in on things. Catch. Something shifted. He felt Cynthia's presence, and that of the other two witches. Sonia and Sam and Flynn. Deanna, the one non-human in the circle. And pure power flowed into him, along the contact with Sonia, along the coven bond. Now there's a power base to work from. Everyone but the wolves and those fool healers. He touched Laurie, alerting her so she could tie herself into it. Then, together, they wove Shane into the meld. Kevin felt, the Marin start in surprise. Moira shrugged. Hiding behind Samantha's cat isn't going to save you, Kevin. People keep saying things like that to me lately. It seems awfully negative. Nobody ever tells me what will save me. Nothing can. Somehow I had a feeling that was what you meant. Except that I already know what'll save me. Having the world's greatest friends. Flynn says you need a hand, Sonia added. Eva's wanted a viable reason to thump Carl for ages. She's on her way. A small, pale wolf dashed out the gate, so close on Sonia's words it was hard to tell which might have acted first. An alpha who started a fight with a non-alpha outside her pack was considered a bully. Even if that non-alpha repeatedly made disparaging public comments about the alpha's witch, who suffered from extreme emotional highs and lows, though less so since joining his coven. Getting on her nerves over and over was no excuse, even if other wolves might sympathize somewhat. An alpha stepping in to defend others against an aggressive wolf of any status was another matter altogether. Carl spun towards Eveline, and she met him with her teeth bared. He was larger than her, but Kevin hadn't the slightest doubt who was going to win. Moira traced a symbol in the air. Fire trailed after each gesture, lingering, leaving the entire thing clearly visible. Kevin didn't have long to look. She finished it, and the unfamiliar symbol flared up. From its heart, where the light was the most intense, poured what seemed like countless small, glowing winged shapes, all streaking directly at him and Shane and Laurie. Instinctively, he channeled extra power into the shields at the front, only to have the whole flock do 90-degree turns without slowing at all, over them or to either side. Laurie flung a ball of green and tawny fire at one, but the ball was absorbed harmlessly. Kevin let go of Shane and spun around, praying the connection was steady enough to hold now, without physical contact, reinforcing the shields all around them. It was too confusing, facing different directions. He had to stop using Shane's senses and concentrate entirely on his own. One of the small flying things hovered just in front of him, wings buzzing hummingbird fast, the body they supported vaguely weasel-like. What the bloody hell is that? I have no fucking idea. You do fire, not me, Shane said shortly. Everything blurred to Kevin's sight, even heat images distorting. It took him a second to realize that it was because Shane had created an extremely dense, foggy barrier around the three of them that seemed to slow and weaken their small attackers. It would at least make the shields last longer, but it wouldn't solve the problem. I don't know, Laurie said tightly, but nothing seems to be working on them. She tried her lioness avatar, snapped at one, but it dove out of reach with improbable agility. I'd say it's a technique from the Meridas's book on elementals, the Lucian mage said with interest. Brace yourselves, Shane murmured. With this kind of volume, I don't have much fine control. He took a deep breath and began to sing. Volume? Uh-oh. He couldn't see it, but he knew the lake was on the opposite side from the walls, and he knew what Shane was, which he doubted Moira did. He closed his eyes and concentrated on creating a kind of arced telekinetic barrier between them and the lake. Shane wouldn't mind getting wet, but he'd personally prefer to avoid it just now, and couldn't imagine Laurie would be thrilled with the idea. He heard the sudden disturbance, the shift in the pattern of the waves against the shore. Laurie grabbed more power from the link, poured it into the barrier, adding her will to his. Moira can't see it any more than I can. For just a heartbeat, the moonlight was blocked by a huge wave looming over them. Then it crashed down. Even prepared, Kevin winced from the noise, the sheer uncontrollable force of it, and Shane fell silent mid-note. When Shane says volume, he's not kidding. At least the barrier held. Mostly. They'd been caught by no worse than spray. Judging by Moira's venomous swearing, she couldn't say the same. The wave washed away both Shane's mist wall and the flock of elementals, and did some serious damage to their primary shields. Kevin let go of the telekinetic one, fed the power back into the main ones, felt Laurie doing the same. Standing here with minimal shields right now was suicide. Sorry, Shane said. He sounded a bit out of breath. Had to do overkill to be sure I got anything useful. It's going to be a minute before I can do anything else. It's okay. Laurie, you've got defense for a minute? Mm-hmm. Well, let's hope Moira doesn't have any demon protections. He pulled power from the whole group as quickly as he dared, gathering it together. Hey, Moira! Catch! She looked up, raised her hands to defend against the rainbow serpent that abruptly coiled around her shields. Much the way Patrick had, she hurled a simple fireball at it, intending to disrupt it. They had based this one on Shane's gifts too, a refined version of Kevin's instinctive retaliation against Patrick in their first meeting. He had never heard of getting through a mage's shields like this, but it had worked when they had tested it, although with lower power levels. The fireball touched the serpent, and in the instant that a channel remained between it and Moira, the serpent grounded itself through it, intense power abruptly flowing in when she was still oriented on power going out. She didn't even have time to scream. She crumpled to the sodden ground, motionless. Alive, though given her body temperature, it wasn't a given that it would continue. She was at least out of the picture for the foreseeable future. With a sigh, Kevin turned to face the other mage, and felt Laurie and Shane regrouping as well. Beautifully done, Patrick complimented them. Thank you, Kevin said tiredly. How much longer could they hold out, even with the circle behind them? Can we finish this now? Oh, I think so. Wait, that wasn't out loud. That was mind speech. How was an enemy using mind speech during a fight, past all Kevin's defenses, without the open doorways of direct physical contact or an active two-way coven bond? Telepathy was a normal elven ability, so much so there were even a lot of non-mage elven telepaths. The lowest prices were on enhancing what already existed. And there were feelings rousing that he had gone to great lengths to disown and bury. Feelings he recognized but desperately didn't want to experience again. Feelings that made him far too much like what Patrick thought he was. Arrogance, scorn, superiority, aggression. Laurie! It came out almost as a shriek. He's in my... That's enough, Patrick said, his mind wrapping around Kevin's, spreading in an oily layer that Kevin couldn't get through. Reality warped. Perception twisted. Kevin fought frantically to hold on to what he knew for truth, but the other thoughts slid into his mind unstoppably. "Get out! This is my skull and you are not welcome in it!" "Kevin Leorin," Patrick purred. "From what I see in your memories, you're very good at hurting the people you're close to, aren't you? Physically, emotionally. Now I see why your little wolf there chose to come back to the city. But he couldn't get away from you, not completely, not after you had touched him. What were you saying earlier about not being like me? I think you're much worse." "Get out!" Kevin snarled out loud, clawing desperately for any kind of leverage that would get Patrick out of his memories. "They didn't trust me to do it alone. That's why they both insisted on helping. Like I need help from anyone. How dare they help if they doubt me?" "They don't," a rapidly weakening part of him wailed. "They trust you. They care about you." "They thought I couldn't take one damn Lucian who doesn't even have that much power of his own. That or they thought I'd run off and join him. Yeah, as if I need him either." "Oh, hell," Laurie muttered, and yanked Shane behind her, breaking the linked shields and reweaving her own. "See how readily they turn on you?" Patrick pointed out. "Laurie doesn't trust me. She never did. Shane never trusts anyone. He lied to us all." "Fight him, Kev," Laurie pleaded. "You got past this once. You can do it again." "And who made you the judge of what I should be or do?" Kevin growled. He grabbed for power, but felt the link dissolve, melting like ice in summer. Cutting him off, pushing him out, leaving him with only his own power to use. So what, if they could all betray him so easily? He needed nothing but his own gifts. "Shane," Laurie said, her voice heavy, "try not to hurt him too much." Kevin pulled together the moonlight, drew power up from within the depths of himself, and condensed it all into his phoenix. The bright bird dove directly at Shane. Laurie's lioness appeared and flung itself at the phoenix, foreclaws raking the air, only an inch or two from feathers. Kevin had the phoenix circle a couple of times, considering ways to get past Laurie, even if he had to do something nasty to get her out of the way. She deserved it anyway, turning on him. Shane at least had never pretended to be more than a temporary ally. What was Shane doing? The Marin's clear voice rose again, above the sounds of wind and wave and the savage wolf fight a short distance away, sliding through a range no human was likely to match, tenor and soprano, and higher yet. The song held winter, ice, bitter cold, and it wrapped around Kevin like a January wind. Instinct screamed at him that he was a child of fire, and the ice could kill, even as the rage intensified. How dare Shane do this? He felt weakness wash over him. His legs gave out, and he dropped heavily to his knees, head bowed, struggling to breathe. "I can't even think of a name bad enough to call you," Laurie spat, somewhere beyond the ice. But oddly, it didn't seem to be at him. He felt her touch in his mind, and struggled against her. There was already too much inside his head, two conflicting sets of thoughts, and he couldn't tell which was real. All around him, ice began to form, not touching, but never more than a hand's breadth from him, shutting him off from everything else. He reached for Deanna. She was always there, but the cold drained too much. He couldn't get outside his own head. Section break. "I can't reach him right now. It would take too much concentration, and we can't afford that," Laurie said in Shane's mind, her voice nearly as cold as the ice he had just trapped Kevin in. "We're going to have to finish this without him." "Any thoughts how?" He tried to keep his thoughts off Kevin. off his own prayers that it wouldn't do the mage any permanent harm. He was certain that much cold had to be very bad for an elven mage, but he hadn't been able to think of anything else that might work. Can you do to him what you just did to Kev? Yes, but since he's using demon power, it won't hold him for very long. Damn. He picked up on a flicker of movement to one side and scanned the area without turning his head. Jess, his silver dagger in one hand, bare feet silent on the grass, limped closer. The effort in every step made Shane long to run to him and support him, but that would get them both killed. If Jess could get close enough unnoticed... Hit 'em all out, he told Laurie. Throw everything you have at him. She must have caught the information about Jess from his mind, given how instantly she agreed. Laurie flung at the demon mage a hail of daggers made all of moonlight. Shane sang moisture out of the air into a second rain of flying daggers. These ones made all of ice, coming from an angle instead of straight on like Laurie's. Trying to deal with that kept the demon mage occupied briefly, long enough for Shane to start a different song, while Laurie simply fed him her own power, and that of the circle in the house. This song was of confusion and fear and disorientation, the same technique his family had used on Unity, muddling the senses and blurring the mind. It was meant to spread out, pouring across a broad area and affecting everyone within a supernaturally large hearing range. Though it meant he had to sacrifice some of its strength, he focused it as tightly as he could on the demon mage alone. Still, it inevitably spilled over. Andrew or Jason whimpered and let out a plaintive puppy howl. The demon mage hesitated, his shield rippling. Jess stumbled, caught himself before he fell, and kept going. He couldn't be more than 6 feet away, behind the demon mage and to one side. Would shields formed partially of demon power keep out a demon wolf? Better safe than sorry. He shifted the song gradually, made it speak of acceptance and belonging and home, of peace and safety. The demon mage's shields wavered and fell, fading away into moonlight. Eveline, with a couple of dark streaks in her pale fur, and one forefoot not taking her full weight, darted directly through the face-off, very close to the demon mage. She seemed to be in better shape than her opponent, who had to be on his feet still only through pure mad will. The larger wolf ran after her, though in less of a straight line, and his shoulder bumped glancingly against the mage's legs. Automatically, the mage spun in place to track them, raising both hands again. It only took Jess one sidestep to be directly in front of him. With both hands wrapped around the hilt of his dagger, he thrust it upwards, through the jaw, through the throat, and judging from the way the mage collapsed bonelessly, with total disregard for how he landed, hitting the spinal column, where it joined the skull at the back. Shane wasn't sure the demon mage had even seen Jessie, between the light levels and the distractions and Eveline's perfect timing. Jess dropped to his knees, head bowed. Where he had found the strength, Shane wasn't sure, but it had obviously run out. Eveline trotted back and nuzzled him, tail waving slowly, and Jess draped an arm over her. Kev? Shane surveyed the area, but it was over. The larger wolf was moving only a little, small twitches accompanied by soft whining. The female mage was unconscious still. The demon mage was very definitely dead. There were no demons left to fight at the moment. The one Alfari had cornered had vanished at some point, and the others were dead. Andrew and Jason were a couple of largely motionless shadows, but it wouldn't take long for assistance to show up, he was sure. Laurie let go of his hand and ran to Kevin. Shane headed for Jess instead and helped him to his feet. Is Kev okay? Jess asked. Eveline whined, nosed Jess briefly, and loped unevenly over to Kevin. Section break. Kevin's consciousness blurred, the raw cold draining him more than any mage battle ever could, his metabolism struggling vainly to keep his body temperature at its usual level. The ice shattered. Oh gods, now what? I'm here, Kev. It's okay. Laurie's arm around him. Laurie's wonderfully warm body pressed against his, heat wrapping around him in an intangible blanket. Bridget, you're cold. Come on, Kev, tell us you're okay. A warm, furry body snuggled against his other side with a soft whine. A third body, much smaller, climbed onto his lap and purred. Kev? That was Jess, out loud, coming closer. But he sounded terrible. And worried. You're still you, right? Still me? He echoed fuzzily. There's no more outside influence. It's all just Kevin there now, Laurie said reassuringly. I called the others. They'll be out here in no time. Wake up, Kev. You can't sleep now, not until we get you warm. Damn, Shane muttered. Maybe I overdid it. Is he going to get over this? Shane sounding all concerned about Kevin's well-being was a sufficiently unusual occurrence to make Kevin blink and focus on the Marin. I'm cold. No shit, Jess said. Get up so we can go inside and get you warm. Inside. Warm, right. Something clicked into place, and he gazed at Laurie and Shane in horror. Oh gods, I attacked... He was messing with your mind somehow, Laurie said firmly. It was probably easier to trigger old behavior patterns than to try any kind of direct control. He found a weakness and he used it. That doesn't mean you deliberately betrayed us. Get over it. Get up. Yes, do, Bane said, leaning down to slide an arm around Kevin and halfway pull him to his feet. Walk. Inside. Flynn has the kettle on. Things got fuzzy, but he knew there were familiar arms around him on both sides, helping him to his feet. In the warm brightness of the house, a cup was held for him, and he obediently took a swallow of soup. Jess? He asked. They're fine, all three of them, Deanna said. Badly exhausted. No injuries to them or Eva that are going to be a major issue. We'll get them cleaned up and fed, and Mandisa can look at them tomorrow. Shane? In better shape than you are. Take another drink. Too bad elves don't jumpstart, Andrew said, with a weak, slightly hysterical giggle from nearby. The other guys? Cynthia's dealing with it, Sam said. Bane hugged him, and Kevin gratefully leaned against him, absorbing his warmth through the blanket someone had wrapped around him. It's all over, Phoenix. Now we can all get on with our lives. That sounds awesome. Just as soon as I'm awake enough to do it. One last chapter, just to wrap things up. 63. Jess shifted position so Jason could lean against him more comfortably and surveyed the living room. Everyone was there, all more or less recovered from the battle a few days before, though magically speaking it was going to be some time before anyone was up to normal levels. Mandisa had taken care of the wounds of the demon wolves and Eveline, which would heal, and treated Kevin's brush with hypothermia. Exactly what she had said to the two healers while checking them, having banished everyone else, they kept to themselves. Time would take care of all the rest. All three cats had found welcoming laps and obliging hands, and Gwyn lay sprawled next to Naomi. Well, Eveline said, looks like life can now get back to normal. Or become something like normal, Jason countered. So, what are you? meaning Andrea and Jess and Jason, going to do now? Find a home and a job, Andrea said. Maybe someone to teach me more about cars. That seems to be one of my stronger talents. You have a home, Cynthia said. Will there be room? I'm in no hurry to leave my mom, Lynn said. This house has plenty of room. It'll just take some time to fix up the parts that are in the worst shape. You guys might need to share or something for a bit while we get that done, but ultimately, we'll all fit. Stay here. I can't really argue. There were some people who've been very kind to us, too. I'd like to make sure they know why we couldn't stay and couldn't explain, and that we're okay. That should be easy enough to do, and I'm sure it'll make them happy. And I bet if we visit the garage, there will be a job just opening up. I think I'd like to go back to high school, Jason said slowly. After that, we can see what happens. He snuggled against his twin. As long as we're together. I think I'll get used to having lots of friends again. Can be done, Laurie judged. Jess? He thought that over. I don't know. Maybe in September I'll go back to school with Jace. It would be really cool to see if we can make us and Sam exist legally again. We can call one of Haven's very own lawyers and ask what we can do, Cynthia said. We can track down birth certificates and such and get your name changed back to what it should be and whatever else. My uncle's one of them, Eveline said. He'll tell us for free. And I'm wondering if it's too late to bring someone up on abuse charges. I didn't realize until that demon looked like him, but I think I'd be able to leave it behind better. Not that he isn't a hotshot lawyer himself, and he'll probably get off. That's how it goes, Shane said dryly. Hit the hookers and the street kids hard and heavy. Let the rich sons of... He stopped. Switched phrases. Bastards, walk away after fucking with innocent lives. But just knowing I tried might help. We'll look into that too, Cynthia promised. And you're quite right. We should at least do our best. Anything else? Long term? Maybe find a way to help the kids still on the streets who don't have demon luck and awesome friends to bail them out. But I have to get myself sorted out first. So for right now, I'm going to just stick with working at the brewery if Thomas doesn't fire me. All of us, Sonia sighed. I bet we have to work serious overtime for a while. Maybe he'll put that on hold until after exams. This time, Kevin said, nestled between Deanna and Flynn. He said he still couldn't quite get warm, and he spent all the time he could cuddling with anyone willing. Nobody forget Jess is around, okay? That got a variety of winces and chuckles. We could also, Andrea said, get word out about Mom if we aren't trying to hide. We might not ever know what happened, or if she's alive or dead, but we have to try. Definitely, Naomi agreed. Sam, Liam said, this sets you free too. What about you? Silence for a moment. After so long of it always being in the back of my mind that I had failed and that I had to watch for any survivors, I'm really not sure. All the ghosts in Unity can rest now. Maybe if some of the misinformation and prejudice about demons has been shaken enough, I'll see if I can find anyone interested in learning my kind of magic, since as far as I know, I'm the only one left in this part of the world who knows it. You can, Nick and Cynthia said in perfect sync, and looked at each other and laughed. Sam smiled. Otherwise, if I'm not so worried about keeping secrets, it might be nice just to relax and live. And come party with us, Laurie said. We've been inviting you long enough. She smiled. And maybe other stuff too. That too. Shane? Kevin said. What are you going to do now? You don't have to feel responsible for Jess anymore. Shane regarded him quietly. I could just disappear. You could, but we'd miss you. True, Sam said softly. We would. You won't find anywhere you belong better than right here with us, Katrin seconded. Besides, without you, who will yell at me when I'm being stupid? Jess asked. And I might need you to tell a judge you saw lots of bruises. And I think you and Kevin Laurie are going to have an awesome time messing around with fire and water magic. And... Shane held up both hands, palm out, for once making no effort at all to hide the delicate webbing between his fingers. Enough already. So I'll spend a lot of time in the lake, but I'll make sure I come visit. Lots, Gisela said. All right, visit lots. Good, Bane said, satisfied. Then as soon as we get Dominance Order worked out more permanently, it would seem we have a wolf pack of 7, which is the biggest one I know of, and everything will now work out wonderfully, and we can all live happily ever after. Demon luck, Jason said hesitantly. It'll keep life from getting boring, Kevin said. I'd love some boredom, Brian said wistfully. Not forever, just for a while. Alfari coiled on his lap, purred agreement. Know something? Deanna said. We've been long overdue for a party. We have a whole long list of reasons. You're absolutely right, Nick laughed. Now sound like a good time? Jess groaned. Oh God, not another party. You always survive, Liam teased. While plans were formed for a run to the store and other tasks, Jason glanced up at him and smiled. It's going to be good to have a home again, he murmured. Jess, Deanna called across the room. Go raid music collections, would you? I have to keep an eye on Kev. No way, Phoenix! You don't do anything in that kitchen without someone keeping an eye on you! She darted after the elven mage, and Jess rolled his eyes. Yeah, Jess said softly. It's good to know where you belong. And this is it. Come on, let me up. We got a party to get going. And one last bit. Quicksilver Sphinx. June 1995. Miscellanea from Nick Winter. If anybody's behind on news, that fight we warned you was coming came, and was won. But that isn't half the news that happened to Sundark, Winter, Dandelion, etc. in May. Remember I challenged anyone to prove to me that Alessandria Cora Tremaine, Starluck's wolf, had a 7th child that was fathered by a demon? I swear I am never going to ask for any such thing again. I got proof all right, in the form of 3 black wolves who can kill demons. If you haven't met them yet, and you probably haven't because they're very shy, Jesse's twin Jason and their sister Aindri showed up just in time. To those outside Haven who have helped them while they were alone, without knowing the whole story, just because they needed it, thank you isn't enough. Just to confuse matters even more, Water has children too, who are not going to be pleased when or if they discover that I'm telling you they exist. And we now have one, Shane, in fact, living in the lake. Nor is Coven Whitethorn likely to be much of a threat for some time to come. Whitethorn, incidentally, no longer includes Rebecca, who apparently has decided to turn solitary. I do not have enough room to tell you everything, but I'm sure the whole wild tale will get around on its own, duly exaggerated. Flynn's writing a story about it, and we'll make sure everyone who wants to know the actual facts about Unity, about demon wolves, about Samantha's mysterious past, and about Marinai has access to a copy. I do, however, need to ask for help, not only of Haven, but of all the villages and all our friends. If there are any other survivors from Unity, whether alive out there and hiding, or dead since then that you know of, please get a hold of us and tell us. 3 demon wolves, not to mention Sam, would very much like to know what happened to their mother, friend, Dana Cora Tremaine, especially. Please spread the word as far as you can, and tell them the demons that killed Unity are dead. News other than that, I'm rather behind on. I've been a tad busy, but let's see what I can tell you. There's one wild summer solstice party being planned, a bonfire on the beach, and all sorts of other stuff. Get a hold of Coven's Black Rose or Prism for more info, or if you have ideas. Perdita Harpsong has offered to give lessons to anyone interested in the use of song, drum, and dance in doing trance work. Depending on the response, it might be individual or a group. Haven has a new coven, Coven Avalon, who are apparently staying here even after they all finish at the college. Elsinore is a human healer from Aralu, Hale is a wolf from Phalius, Natalia is a dryad herbalist from Irminsul, and Haven's own Pavel is, as we all know, a dryad telepath. Blessed be cousins, and love each other long and well. You'll have to live without historical notes this month, I'm out of time. Then again, the simple fact that Alessandria's 7th child was real should be enough history for anybody. See you next month, and have a great solstice. And that is the end of Black Wolf. Which, of course, you can find at prismcat.com/blackwolf if you want an actual well, not print, but text, ebook copy of it. I really hope you've been enjoying listening along while I ramble about this stuff. I notice Indie Diva is doing reminders that I'm going to be streaming tomorrow with her, doing a bit of 2 Point Hospital. That'll be in the morning, although I'll set it up so that it should host on, I think I can set it up so that that should host on this channel as well. Yeah, all of the videos of this are on YouTube, under Prism Cat Books. If you take a look, it's all in a nice neat little playlist, so even once it's no longer video on demand on Twitch, they will be there pretty much permanently. Maybe someday I'll do a cleaner recording of it, but don't hold your breath. I've got a lot of other stuff. I'm going to take a few days off, as I said back at the beginning, and think about what I want to do as far as streaming my own work. It's been interesting and educational, but a bit tiring, so even if I do go back to it, I don't think it's going to be every single day. If you have any opinions on any of this, or any suggestions as to which of mine I should pick up next or anything, get in touch with me. There's a Discord link down below. I've usually got Discord up in the background. Find me on Twitter, whatever. I'm not that hard to find. Even through my website, that's down there too, at prismcat.com. Yeah. That's about it. Nothing else comes to mind. Everybody stay safe. Stay home if you possibly can. Keep your hands clean. Be kind to each other. Above all else, we really, really need to be kind and thoughtful and patient with each other while we get through this stuff. Okay? So, I'm not sure when I'll see you again, other than tomorrow for a bit of 2 Point Hospital. But I'll be around. Okay. Bye, folks, and thanks for hanging out with me.